Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me another episode of Strategy Mob. Today I have a very special guest. I've been looking forward to this guest for over a month. I have the one, the only, the oh-so-famous Mr. Dean Stoneley in the house. Dean, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We have some really cool topics, and a lot of things have changed for you, so I think that's really exciting. But hey, I like to kick off all of these podcasts with a little origin story because I'm always super fascinated to find out how people got started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry. So Dean, how did you get started in this crazy world we call the automotive industry?
Well, sure, Jason. It's kind of interesting. My father actually worked for Ford Motor Company. He started out in the UK in Dagenham, and he actually was the mail boy. That's what they called it in those days. And he had a bicycle, and he'd go to each of the different buildings. And so, my history goes way back with the company. And my parents emigrated to Canada, and my father, not right away, but he did end up working for Ford again in Canada. And so it was always kind of in my family. I've always loved cars. The Toronto Auto Show was always a highlight for me every year. And so it's something that I really grew up with. And here I am. I started out in our customer assistance center. I was answering phones, taking customer concerns. And so very humble beginnings, but I always loved it right from the start. I've always loved cars and anything with wheels, motorcycles, racing, always been drawn to that. And so it's been a good run. So I've been in this industry now for many years, as you can imagine.
Yeah, you know what? This is one of those industries that once it kind of gets in your blood, it's kind of just hard to get it out of your blood, right? Like I was kind of like you. I was always kind of into cars with my dad. My birthday's in February, so that's always when the auto shows were going on.
Yeah.
So just kind of growing up, that's so just me and my dad did, and it just gets into you. You can't get it out. So that's very cool. Now look, there's been a lot of changes with you lately. You've started a brand new position. So I'm curious, and I'm going to ask real quick before we get into our other topic. So how is this new position, and what does that necessarily entail?
Well, it's exciting. I mean, when you and I first started talking, Jason, about this podcast, I was the president and CEO of Ford of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Since March 1, I've now transitioned to a new role based in the U.S., and I'm the general manager for North America Truck.
Cool.
So I'm overseeing our truck business. So, I mean, that's it's F-Series, it's Super Duty, it's Ranger, some other products that will be coming in the near future. But it's a really exciting opportunity. I mean, truck is so core to Ford Motor Company in terms of everything we do. And so I couldn't be more excited and frankly more humbled to be leading this team that designs trucks. I mean, we've been the market leader in this space for many years. It's something we do very well. We know our customer so well, and it's incredible to be in this new role. Of course, I miss my friends and colleagues in the Ford of Canada role, but I do plan on staying very close.
What a really cool role. I mean, you think about the F-150 just being at the center of just Ford's efforts for such a long time, and just how cool to be just kind of heading up all those efforts. I mean, the first truck my family owned was an F-150. In fact, actually, that was the first experience I had at a car dealership. It was actually at a Ford dealership.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, and sure enough, they had a petting zoo that weekend. And there was hot dogs and a petting zoo. And I thought for sure, I'm like, this is what I want to do.
You've got it all.
For many years afterwards, my father would ask me what we want to do that weekend, and it would be, we need to go to the Ford dealership. That's because I just assumed that's what they did every single weekend. Hey,
yeah, of course. It's the F-150. I mean, it's so unique, as you say. I mean, there's very few categories in industry, in any category. I mean, when you think that F-150 in Canada, it's been the best-selling pickup truck for 55 years. I mean, that's longer than I've been alive. And it's hard to imagine really in any other category where a product has had that kind of success over such a long period of time. So it really is an amazing history, an amazing story. And, the vehicles are so different today. I mean, it used to be an F-Series was almost a tool. It was like a tractor, it was something that was there to get a job done. And, today, of course, F-Series range from, sort of mid-market, $35,000, $40,000 up to $100,000. I mean, you've got premium limiteds and platinums and raptors. And so, it's this incredible lineup of vehicles. And so it really is an exciting space.
It is, and that's so cool. That's so cool that you're in that space and you're really kind of heading in those efforts. Hey, but before you took on this new role, there was some pretty big projects that we were working on. In fact, actually one that I would love to ask you about, because I remember reading about it going, wow, this is really cool. I mean, when I first moved to Canada, the first apartment that I lived in literally overlooked the Oakville plant, Ford plant. And, so I read this article. I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And the article was about that you guys are going to be producing 100% electric vehicles by 2023. And I heard that and I was like, 2023? Well, that's like right around the corner. I mean, I can't imagine how big of a project that is. So I guess my first question for you is simply why? I mean, it's very cool, but I'm just kind of curious, what was the direction and what was the why behind pushing that plant to being fully electric by 2023?
Well, I think the short answer to the why question is it's the future. I mean, that really is the short answer. Electric vehicles are the future, and I believe that. And so it is such an exciting opportunity for Oakville. I will, just to clarify, I mean, we start our investments in 2023. We won't have vehicles coming off the line in 2023. As you can imagine, this is a complete transformation.
Oh, yes.
Our investment in Canada is almost $2 billion. And so in many ways, it'll be a completely new plant by the time we're finished. So there is there's a fairly extended transition period where we rebuild or build out the plant for electric vehicles.
Oh, that makes sense.
But that's when the investment kicks off. But yeah, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, what's important to realize is the investments are being made now today for electric vehicles. And so the larger volumes might still be 3, 4, 5 years away. I mean, the real transition is happening quickly, but it's the investment that's happening today. So we've announced that we are investing $22 billion in electric vehicles as a company between now and 2025. And other companies are also making these types of investments, and those investments are being locked down now. So it's kind of like jump ball, right? It's this investment is happening, and if you don't secure that investment today, then 5 years down the road, those investments are all locked and loaded. So that's why it was really important for the future of Oakville to go 100% electric, and because that really sets up this plant for the future, and the future is electric. So that's the really exciting part for me, and what that does for the economy in Ontario and Canada. What those opportunities are in terms of looking into the future.
I've had the opportunity to drive a lot of electric vehicles, and you're 100% right. It is completely the future of our industry. And when I look at the dealership or the dealer body, all right, we have a tendency of kind of living in the now. And it's very cool and very exciting when we see the OEMs and specifically Ford, push towards that future. But I find that with a lot of the dealerships I work with, it's like, hey, my manufacturer is going here, but I'm kind of back here because I'm having to deal with the right now. So I guess my question is from your opinion, right? How do electric vehicles kind of impact dealer operations? How do we start those conversations? And let's take this from the direction right now. Let's talk about sales and service, but I'll first talk about service. How do you see electric vehicles impacting dealer service operations?
That's a great question, Jason. I mean, those conversations have already started clearly with our dealers. We have EV certified dealers today. And so, those dealers are well on their way in terms of being able to service and sell vehicles. I mean, we're not new to electrification. Our Mach-E that we launched this year, the Mustang Mach-E, is our first fully electric vehicle of our new generation of EVs. But, we have sold EVs in the past. We had an EV Focus here in Canada. We've sold a whole lot of plug-in hybrids and hybrid vehicles. So we've been electrifying vehicles for many years. We were the first to come out with a hybrid SUV with the Escape. So our dealers have experience in this space, but you're right. The transition from hybrid, plug-in hybrid to full battery electric is a significant transition. There's no question. And so there's a lot being talked about in service. One of the great things about, from a customer point of view about EVs is they require less service. As you can imagine, there's less moving parts. You've got less complexity. You don't have the oil coolers and water pumps and all of the things that go into an internal combustion engine. So there's less service as a result. Brakes is another great example because of the regenerative braking in an EV. Your brakes and brake pads last longer. So there's less service involved for the customer. So that really is a win. Now, the dealers would be looking at that and saying, is that a concern in terms of their revenue? And my answer to that is, if you look at today, we have this kind of waterfall, we call it, where we've got very good loyalty through the warranty period, and then after that period is up, we start to lose a lot of these customers to third-party service shops. For sure, and it's significant. And so, if our dealerships can capture just a percentage of that, I mean, if 10 or 20% of that, 10 or 20% of that, that would offset any losses that they would have with respect to EVs requiring less maintenance. And the other thing is EVs bring a whole level of complexity. I mean, there's all kinds of new technology and training, and so our dealers are better positioned than anybody to do that service. I wouldn't be taking my EV to a third party. No, I would be wanting to go to my dealer, and so I think that really positions the dealers well. Now, will they have to change and adapt? Yes. I mean, if they want to do business the way they've always done business, that's not going to work. It's going to require upskilling and change of skills. But for those dealers that are committed to that, I think the future is very bright and very exciting.
You bring up a great point, because I've actually read a survey recently that it was with another OEM, but the retention on electric vehicles was almost 60% higher on electric vehicles than just its standard combustion engine counterpart. And that makes sense. Right after that warranty period, right, the customer kind of feels that they can go to their buddy shop down the street or something like that. But you're so right that complexity of electric vehicle, the mindset's entirely different. I've also find that it seems like there's a lot more conversation about the vehicle. It's not like I pick up my keys and I drive away and then I'm like, okay, and then I don't talk to the dealership again. It seems like there's kind of ongoing conversations, ongoing. I was talking to a gentleman who is actually the dealership's designed electric vehicle delivery expert. So one person in the dealership designed just to do the electric vehicle, and the amount of conversation that continue to happen way after the delivery, it just feels like there's a much closer relationship there. And and he's already bringing people in and out of vehicles 2 to 3 years within the ownership. So I think there's opportunity there. I think we have to have the discussion. I'm curious though, like, I had a dealership, and I remember my technicians, they were very veteran technicians, but touching an electric vehicle and a computer, probably not necessarily their forte. Do you think this changes what the technician of the future will look like for the next 5 to 10 years?
I do, but I must say that in my role, I visit a lot of dealerships, and people's notion of a dealership technician is very outdated already, right? I mean, when you go into a dealership now, this notion of somebody covered in grease and in working on a car is not the reality. I mean, already today, with all the onboard diagnostics, and I'm not even talking electric cars. I mean, even ICE-powered cars, internal combustion engine cars, are so advanced that our technicians are very, they're using laptops, right, to diagnose trouble codes. And so they're already in that space. There's already a whole lot of training. I mean, these are real specialists. So will it require, additional skills? Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be this kind of continuous learning as in most professions today, and the technicians will need to keep up with that. But I don't have any concerns that they'll be able to do it. Frankly, we struggle to find technicians. I think the real challenge is more skilled trades, and the status of skilled trades within Canada, and a lot of industries are struggling to attract that talent. So that's probably more the challenge than anything. I think from a training point of view, we'll get there, and I think technicians are already well on the way to being there. And just one other thing, Jason, you said, which is really important, and we can talk about the connected car because it's very much part of the kind of the EV ecosystem. But this notion of dealer relationship with the customer, I think there's a huge opportunity there, because that relationship used to be, the day I buy my car, and then maybe a year later when I come back for an oil change. But with connected vehicles, the cool thing is your vehicle keeps getting better and better. It doesn't start to just become older the day after you buy it. I mean, you can do, there's over-the-air updates, there's enhancements, there's things that will continually make that vehicle better. And the dealer has a huge role to play in that. I mean, there's a whole value stream there that the dealer is involved in with the customer. So that opportunity to have that ongoing relationship, I think, is really going to be transformational.
I agree with you. I actually am kind of excited about that part, because I think the product almost kind of naturally, it gives the opportunity for the dealership to create a much stronger relationship. Hey, going back to the technician thing, I want to get your thoughts on this. Is, you said something that we all know is a big issue, is bringing new blood, new technicians into our industry. And I wonder, for the past, one of the reasons why we haven't been able to get maybe the new generation is because it's not overly exciting, but electric vehicles can be incredibly exciting. Do you see electric vehicles being an opportunity to bring new technicians or attract new talent to the industry, because it's a new challenge? It's kind of, it's not your dad's car anymore. It's the newest and coolest.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a really great insight. I was driving a Mustang Mach-E over the month of December, and I got to tell you, it's amazing the young people that car attracts. And I've been at this for a while, right? It used to be, if I brought home a Mustang GT 20 years ago, all the young people in the street would run out to see the Mustang GT. That's changing. Now the Mustang Mach-E is that magnet. And what amazes me is these young people know everything about the car. I mean, they many of them, I mean, when I say young people, I'm talking young, they don't even have a driver's license. Yeah. And yet they know all about the car, all the technical specs. And so there's this incredible interest, you're right, from young people about EVs. I mean, it's exciting, the technology, it's the future. It's the idea of with climate change and the idea of, solutions to that. These are things that young people are really, really keyed in on. And so I think you're absolutely right. I hope that's going to attract more people to want to be a part of this value chain and be a part of working on these amazing vehicles. So I think that's a great insight.
Well, you know what? And I think if any dealerships out there are watching or listening right now, that's a great strategy to start having conversations around, or start building out even marketing campaigns about, is attracting that new blood. Look, in the past, our marketing campaigns have look how much money a technician can make. They make an amazing amount of money. They have a great lifestyle. But here's something very bold, very new, very, very cool. I think we can attract a lot of new blood that way. And that's on the service side. I kind of want to now kind of transition over to the sales side, because I'm curious to get your thoughts and your opinion of, do electric vehicles, do they change the sales process? Is it the same salesperson? Is it different training? How do you see that changes sales operations?
Well, I think what we've seen, and we've done a lot of research in the space, is the EVs are accelerating trends that have been happening for some time, right? So customer expectations have been changing. Customers are looking, we always talk about time, ease, and transparency. That's what customers are looking for. And BEVs has just accelerated that. We look at BEV buyers and BEV intenders. They're right at the forefront. These are early adopters, right? These are your early adopters that are interested in adopting new technology, and therefore they're early adopters when it comes to the sales process. And they want that time, ease, and transparency. And And so our dealers need to respond to that. There's no question. They're comparing their purchase experience with other purchase experiences, whether that's online shopping. It's not just looking at it as buying a car. And so they're looking for that type of purchase experience. So there's clearly a shift that's happening that we need to respond to. Our dealers need to respond to. I mean, many dealers already are. I mean, they're right out in front of that. So that's going to be key, right? There's no question. And then there's the whole complexity, right, of an EV. I mean, it's one of those things. A great product needs to be simple for the customer, but behind that simplicity, there's quite a lot of complexity. If that makes any sense, right?
No, it does.
Sometimes it's complex to make things simple, and so our dealers need to again be very much involved in that as well, right? In terms of tailoring not just the purchase experience, but the vehicle to the customer and the customer requirements.
That's a really good point, because I mean, I just had a staff member actually buy an EV, and he did the entire purchase on this device. Everything was done from this device, and didn't even meet with the salesperson until the point of delivery. Right? No, I'm not saying that's necessarily every customer's want or needs, but I find with the EV brands, they seem to lean their operations to hey, we'll operate the way you want to. We'll kind of move our 1 through 12 steps of buying a car, but we'll be flexible with them to kind of cater to the customer's needs. And it's amazing when I listen to the staff member who just literally just took delivery of like 3 days ago, right? All right. He talks about it like it's a brand new phone, like he just bought a brand new laptop, right? And it went on for hours, tech, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. So how's the car? How's the handling? How's the And he's like, well, who cares? It can do this.
Yeah.
But you're so right though. I mean, customers are buying a piece of technology now, not just a car. And I think that does kind of have to change, definitely from a sales perspective of, look, we're now selling a piece of technology. And the car is almost kind of the secondary part kind of to it. So how do we change it? It's a big part. Now I think the electric vehicles then opens up into a whole nother category of connected vehicles. Now, it's not connected vehicles are necessarily a new thing. We've had connected vehicles for a while, but now EVs bring a whole nother kind of level to connectivity. So I guess my question then for you is like, what kind of discussions, I guess, do dealerships need to be having right now to kind of prepare for this all electric, all connected vehicle world?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a big shift, and I must say, we're this working from home. My dog sleeps under my desk, so if you hear snoring, which I can hear, it's my dog that's snoring. It's one of the realities of working from home. So you can edit this out if you need to.
100%.
Yeah. But hey, Jason, it's a really great point about the connected vehicle, and to me, that is a huge shift. And when we think of Tesla as kind of being a breakthrough, it's in many ways, it's less about the electric vehicle and it's more about the connected vehicle that is the transformational piece of that. And, what I mean by that is I spent 5 years in China, and, there's dozens of electric vehicles there. And, there's other electric vehicles that have been on the market. I think the real breakthrough was around this idea of the connected vehicle and everything that allows in terms of over-the-air updates and ability to customize the vehicle and subscription services. It kind of creates that whole technology platform, as you said. And so I think that's been the real transition. And so, our vehicles, all of the vehicles we sell have modems in them. They're fully connected. The new 2021 F-150 that is now in the market is fully connected vehicle. So we can do over-the-air updates. So we can update things without having to go back to a dealership. For example, we have part of the driver assist technology. We have a highway assist feature, which allows you to drive on major highways, hands free, and controls the speed and does a whole bunch of autonomous things. That feature will be ready this summer. So buyers of the 21 F-150 can get that feature over the air, downloaded into their vehicle without having to go to a dealership. So and that's on a ICE powered vehicle. So the connected vehicle isn't only on EVs, but EVs provide kind of the best platform for connected vehicles. I mean, it's just possible to do more on that platform because of the architecture of the vehicle. But this is really transformational. And when I think of when I think of what's exciting about our industry, when I think of the next 20 years, yes, EV, but connected vehicle is really going to transform our industry, the customer experience, the role of the dealer. All of this is going to be really big.
It is. I mean, in fact, look, EVs excite me. The connected vehicle, being EV or internal combustion, that really gets me going. I just get so crazy excited about it. I mean, just the fact the vehicle can, just from a dealer, being that side of the table, the fact the car can tell me when it's due for service or when it has a flat tire or when, when it's time to for their lease to be done. I mean, there's all these data points on the vehicle itself that includes its mileage and its servicing, and it's all kind of interconnected, and it's so exciting to see how all that gets put together. I think from like a dealer's perspective, I think a lot of dealerships are excited about this, but having that conversation of like, well, what do I prepare for first? So for the dealerships that may be listening, Dean, like, what would you say what kind of conversations do you think they need to be having right now to be prepared for more of a connected vehicle? Is it more of a conversation around marketing? Is it more of a conversation around operations? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a lot of things. I mean, for one, it's about this ongoing relationship with the consumer and all of the opportunities that come along with that. We talked about service earlier and, the potential for reduced revenues on lower service. Well, here's a whole new value chain that the dealer can participate in, which is around connected services and subscriptions and enhancements to the vehicle. So that to me is really exciting. I think the most fundamental change for us as an industry is the customer data. Now, the customer owns their own data, right? And Ford, as our one of our key pillars is to be the most trusted company. And so we take that really seriously, that the customer needs to own their data. But to the extent that the customer gives us permissions with that data, the real change here is that we need to blur that line between whose customer is it, right? Is it the dealer's customer? Is it the OEM's customer? Okay. And that's a space that is, that can be a difficult discussion, right? Because, certainly, and I fully respect the dealer's point of view that this is our customer. But in this new world where we have this data, we need to make that completely seamless. We've got to we can't be kind of debating whose data is this. We have to be collaborating on how we serve the customer. So, there are things the data that will come off the vehicle that will allow us to be very targeted with that consumer, right? And so only by sharing this data and working together are we going to do it. Now, like predictive failures, for instance. I mean, the car will be able to tell you that, could predict, hey, the alternators, something's not right. You should get into a dealership. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we need to have seamless communication with the consumer. And then the whole idea of, think about your social feed. Like, when I go on Instagram, I accept that, okay, I've had to give, my data is being used out there and algorithms and so on and so forth. But I appreciate the fact that all of the ads that I get are so targeted. I mean, I'm interested in cars and motorcycles and photography. And I appreciate the fact that the ads that are served to me are very relevant. And every now and then I get something in my feed, an ad that's completely not relevant. And it almost annoys me. It's like, what's this doing here? How did that happen? This isn't right. And so if you think of let's think of an F-150, we'll know, we sell an F-150 and it's got a trailer tow package, let's say. We don't know whether the customer ever uses it. But with a connected vehicle,
That's true.
I can tell that somebody is using that trailer tow, 5 days a week. And so as we have new features that make towing trailers or, connecting the trailer, the whole logistics around trailers more useful, we can target that customer versus sending something to a customer that's never towed with their F-150 in the 3 years that they've owned it, right?
That's
Or,
awesome.
You've got automatic parking features on your vehicle. Well, I might want to send something out to customers saying, hey, have you tried using your automatic parking? Here's how it works.
Yeah.
I'd like to send that to somebody that's owned the vehicle for 6 months and never tried it versus sending it to somebody that uses it every day. So, there's just a wonderful opportunity to really communicate with the customer on their terms in a very value-added way. To me, that's why sharing this data between the dealer and the OEM is just really fundamental. And if we can get that right, we can create a customer experience like they've never seen.
You know what? I that really gets me excited. Look, in the past, the manufacturer's the wholesaler, the dealer's the retailer, and that has kind of been this wholesale retail relationship. And it feels like these connected vehicles have the opportunity to kind of bring that gap closer, where it doesn't just feel like, hey, I sell them, you make them. But no, it's like there has to be these shared efforts and a lot of it has to do with communication. It seems like everything comes back like we have all these data points. All right, we're going to create a more of an open conversation between, I kind of see like the consumer, the OEM, and the dealer, and it's kind of this triangle type trifecta, But in the past, that hasn't always been the case. It's been like, right, dealer sells a car, and the conversation and relationship is usually between the consumer and the dealer, and the OEM's kind of off here somewhere. But these connected vehicles bring just an entirely different level of conversation. And I think for dealers out there, those are the type of conversations that we probably need to be having right now. Is like, how do I kind of lean into my OEM? And how do I make a better relationship in the sense of like, hey, it's now our customer. Let's work together to manage this customer. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the way you put it is exactly right. I love your construct of a triangle because that is exactly what I believe needs to happen, right? And by connecting it that way, it becomes very powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because the dealers have this great relationship with the consumer. They always have had, right? I mean, that's why dealers are so indispensable because it's not just they're the boots on the ground. They are in their communities. They're involved with charities. They're they're part of their community, and they have these great relationships with the customer, right? And so that kind of local, personal, face-to-face relationship is something that that is very special and something that they have. And I think when you think of it as a triangle, it's not in any way does the OEM want to kind of take that away. It's no, we want to turbocharge that. Yeah. We want to leverage that. But guess what we can do with all of this data? Like, we can use data. And again, this is all under the proviso that the customer is part of this exchange, right? In terms of which data that we use. But we can create such value add for the customer that they're going to want this. But by working together in partnership, we can actually turbocharge that. We can make that relationship even stronger. So it's there's less of a wall, if you will, between OEM and dealer, and there's just this Ford offering the customer just this great relationship that's value added to them and is customized and focused on exactly what their needs are, what their interests are. To me, that is so exciting. I mean, just the idea of what that makes possible.
Well, it's that experience. I mean, it's the holy grail of what everybody's always talking about on every single podcast and every single conference out there is like, how do we make a better customer experience? I mean, when we think of customer experience, it usually happens at the point of purchase, all right, the point of delivery, the point of servicing. So you kind of have these like pockets of experiences that kind of happen here. Well, being connected, all right, takes the experience and stretches it over the entire ownership of it. So now
Yeah.
owning the product and and communicating regularly with the dealership now becomes the experience. It's not the
Mhm.
transaction is the experience. It's actually now the full ownership becomes the experience.
Yeah.
Look, it's really, really exciting. I'm getting a little jacked up myself. I'm like,
Well,
this
it
is
is
gonna be so
exciting. I
cool.
mean, if I was a dealer, I mean, I would be so excited by
Yeah,
that because as you put it that way, like if you think about it today, you're right. There's a transaction that happens,
yep,
and there's almost this notion that in today's world that hearing from the customer often means it's a problem, right? Like
exactly.
success means the customer goes away, they don't have any issues, and therefore you don't hear from them until they need an oil change or something a year down the road. And how exciting is it for a dealer to think like, well, no, in the future state, the customer, this line of communication will be open because there'll be all
Yes.
these enhancements. There'll be, different things to make the vehicle better, and some of those might involve bringing the vehicle back into the dealership. Some of them might be over the air delivery. There'll be different delivery methods, but
Hmm.
that idea that the dealer can make their customer lives, the lives of their customers better by making the vehicle
Right.
better and more customized. And to me, that is really exciting, right? It
It
kind of goes
is.
away from solving problems to actually creating solutions. And I think that if I was a dealer, I would be looking at that and thinking, wow, that's really a transformation to our business that
It's huge.
is very exciting.
It is a huge transformation. I mean, and not just for the customer, but for the dealer, and it's a huge opportunity for the dealer and the OEM to really generate this just amazing experience. So I'm so excited to see how this technology is going to evolve. I know, Dean. It's good towards the tail end of our time today, and this has been a really, really fun conversation. But you know what? Before I let you go, though, I got one more question for you. All right. It's around F-150 because the F-150 is just so near and dear to my heart. All right. What can our listeners or the people that are watching kind of expect to see in the F-150 in the future? Is there a couple maybe glimpses you can share with us?
Well, I would love to. There is a lot of really exciting stuff I would love to share. But I think what you're going to see is, we really understand the usage of our customers. And I
Mhm.
think electrification is allowing us to do a lot of really cool things. So the current F-150 that we've launched is the first hybrid pickup truck of its type. And what's really cool about the hybrid is that it allows, I mean, it's got more torque.
Yeah.
And power than the V8. I mean, it's the most powerful F-150 we sell is the hybrid, and it's got a feature called Pro Power on board, which essentially gives you a generator built into your vehicle, and you can run a work site off of your truck. I mean, in the bed you've got all of the different plugs. High output as well, so you can run table saws or power tools. And what we saw, recently we had the ice storms down in Texas, and there
Yes.
was a lot of media around this, where
I remember
F-150
seeing
owners
that.
were
Yeah.
powering their house off their truck. And so you could go and spend $5,000 on a generator, or you can get this Pro Power on board feature, and essentially bring that power to various different applications. So to me, that's really exciting. And
That
that's
is
just the
cool.
tip of the spear. I mean, next year we're launching a full battery electric F-150, which is going to be every bit an F-150, built for tough, all of the capability that everybody would expect in an F-150 in a full battery electric version. So I think there's a lot of exciting things, but I think the kind of electrification story on F-150 is going to be really exciting. I mean, we are
Hmm.
we are electrifying our icons, right? And like we did with Mustang
Yeah.
Mach-E, and there's probably no bigger icon in my mind than F-150. And so that is what's got me really excited.
No, that is so cool, and I'm with you on that. I mean, I see a lot of OEMs who electrified their vehicles. They started with a new model, or maybe kind of a lower, or one maybe a model that wasn't as popular. I love what Ford did, right? They went right for the gusto and just went straight to the Mustang. I was like, whoa, now that's bold. And then the second one, the F-150. I mean, talk about just kind of standing up and say, hey, look, we're in this. We're in it to win it. So I think that's so cool. Hey, Dean, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with us today. This has been a lot of fun. Hey, you have yourself an amazing day. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Jason, thanks for having me. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy Mob Podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to sign up to Be a Mobster at strategymob.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.